Hello, everyone. I know it's been a while, but if you don't know me, my name is Tiffany Hunter. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. So today I am not going to prolong the time. I have a very special guest by the name of Julissa Leilani. This woman is a powerfully anointed psalmist, songstress. She's encouraging. She has a beautiful spirit inside as well as outside, as you can clearly see. So she has a wonderful song that we're going to talk about today. The title is You Should Know, but I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to her.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here and to be speaking with you, Tiffany. Yes, I'm a singer-songwriter based in the Bay Area, born and raised. And yes, I recently released my debut single called You Should Know. And we'll be talking about it today and kind of just the journey behind it, and through the lyrics as well.
Y'all, it really is a beautiful song. I am not gassing just to be gassing. Like, it is wonderful. The musical accompaniment, the vocal arrangements, but most importantly, this message around healing, forgiveness, and deciding to choose loving yourself more than hating who or what might have hurt you. In the first verse of your song, you say, starting to love myself more than hating you. Now, as a therapist, and even for those who are not in this field, I know we often hear popular phrases like self love and love yourself, but we don't always get examples of what that looks like in action. So, can you share your thoughts on what loving yourself actually entails?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a hard one, because these are the first words I wrote for this song. And mind you, this song wasn't intended to be a song. It was just a journal entry, that I wrote in my own time. So I definitely wrote those words before I believed it, before I was actively doing things to love myself, or did I even believe that I loved myself? I think I was trying to proclaim this over myself. But you're right, we do see these phrases often, and have so much accessibility to ideas of self-care. But I had to figure out, what did that look like for me and what did that mean for me? Because at this time of my in my life, when I wrote this song, a face mask and some retail therapy was not about to take away the pain I was in and experiencing. Externally, maybe, and temporarily, but internally, I knew I needed something more because I had experienced so much trauma and loss and health issues in the last few years, as well as a harmful relationship. I was so angry and so mad at God and people for not protecting me from all these bad things happening. So, practically, loving myself in my case has been a communal effort. And my first practical step was asking for help, which was really hard because I had to learn how to trust people again and trust them with my pain and allow people to help me, which meant being vulnerable and meant being honest about where I was with close friends and family, and also a therapist. Thank God for therapy, for therapists. But I know I've been going to therapy since I was in middle school, which has taught me to start before the fires are already burning. And so that was my first practical step of self-love and self-care. And then I started to do things that I loved again, hence music, hence this release. I was not doing music for quite some time because my confidence was so beat down. And when it is, you start not finding joy in the things you used to find joy in. I mean, I finally started hanging out with friends again, going to concerts, going to church, working out, and it didn't happen all at once. It was definitely a labor. It was doing something really small and then being like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that again. But I had to kind of crawl to get there. And so I I started to find joy in those things again, and also finding new joys, which I didn't think I could find and could do. So that was like my second practical thing. Another practical thing I did was getting myself ready again. and just putting on outfits I bought for special events because after you go through so much trauma and loss, life is put in perspective to you and how precious it is. And so I was like, I'm gonna just wear this today on a Tuesday because I can, because I'm alive, and me being alive is a special event. So of course I had to get used to being like, where are you going? I'm like, to the store. I mean, I'm gonna put this fit on and you're gonna, you know what I mean? I'm just gonna stunt because I'm alive. And so, and then lastly, I'm a believer and I love Jesus, and loving myself has always been a product of God's love for me and his patience to remind me over and over and over again. And that's truly where I've learned how patient God was during this time.
Mhm.
I let him know my anger, my questions, everything. And that, if anything, that brought me so much closer in my relationship to God, because it did not hinder my relationship. If anything, it grew me so much closer because God truly understood the pain I was in, and
Mm.
experienced every single bit of pain I have ever experienced and more. So um, those are the practical things, and of course the face mask and the retail therapy are great add-ons, but I knew that that wasn't going to heal what was happening. So those are my practical steps and what it's looked like for me, personally.
Thank you for sharing that. So it sounds like you're saying instead of masking what's happening by just taking care of what's happening on the external, you decided to really do the inner work,
Yes, yes,
prayer, therapy. I'm not sure if you fasted or not, but then even extending the healing process to your community. So it's not just, oh, long as I got King Jesus, that's it. It's like, no, my family and my friends, the ones that I trust, they will know what's happening too. So should those memories come back, I'm not suffering in silence and no one knows what's happening in
right,
order to know how to help me, should I need to reach out for it.
right,
That's
exactly.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's definitely community. Community was a huge aid in my self-love process, because I needed others to even remind me when I couldn't do it for myself. You have trusted friends and family to be able to speak into your life, and they have the Holy Spirit also to speak into my life when those are the days that I just like, I don't even want to hear from you, God. I don't want to listen. I'm just mad. Then he's like, it's okay. You got friends that I'm going to talk to still talk to.
Exactly.
So community was a huge part of my self-love process and self-care process. Absolutely. So it's definitely more, I feel like it's more of a communal thing than just to be selfish. I think there is love in finding boundaries. I definitely learned boundaries and my limitations, and that's also, caring for yourself. But I do believe it's communal.
Absolutely. It really is because I think sometimes what people forget when it comes to like being in therapy is at the end of the day, ideally your therapist wants to work themselves out of a job.
Right.
But if there's no one else in your community other than your therapist, what will happen when you have one of those days, like you said, where you are struggling to pray or you are struggling to do the things that remind you that you are loved, you are cared for, and it's okay for you to care for yourself. So
Right.
having community to remind you and encourage you and say, oh, no, no, I can see you're starting to slip. What's going on? Let's check in. Let's go out. Do you need coffee? Do you just need me to just come and sit with you like Job's friends did? Just
Yeah.
if it's just sit in silence, is that what you need? If so, I'm here. Let's do it.
Yep.
So that's it's
Absolutely.
it's definitely ironic that you would say community was a huge part of your self-care, your self-love journey.
It is ironic
So
because
necessary though, right?
it's necessary. And I think that's why I had a hard time coming to terms with what does that look like, because in popular media, we're seeing these ideas of self-care, which is great. It's so awesome that we have so many frameworks for what could that look like, especially if you never had an example of that. But I just knew that wasn't enough.
Hmm.
Um, I think they're great byproducts after you're doing the hard work that's behind the scenes. Those are great things to, yeah, externally care for yourself and to upkeep what's happening inside. It's a reflection from what's happening within. And they are great temporary fixes in the midst of that too, to just have practices of self-care. But I knew that it was going to be in community, and it's hard too, especially if in community is where you were hurt. But I knew that it's exactly where I was still going to get my healing, but that came with boundaries, and that came with limitations, and where can I allow people in and not let people in. And so that came with having to trust people again. So it does take a sense of bravery and vulnerability, which is, of course, again, ironic if you've been hurt because you were vulnerable or honest. So it's like it requires more. Like I already gave so much, but it is where I found healing. Because the only way through, or only way on the other side is through, unfortunately.
Exactly. Exactly. Have to fight through it, walk through it, run through it, whatever that looks like, it's got to go through though.
Yep, absolutely. So it is hard. I'm never gonna say, ooh, it's easy, self-care, self-love. No, it's hard. It is tumultuous, but it is worth it, because you will, no matter what, you will have to deal with it at some point.
You're
So
right. You're right.
pass it on, and you don't want to do that.
Let's just go ahead and continue in the vein of lyrics since I started with that. What is your favorite lyric from this song and why?
This is a hard one as well, because I love them all and they all have significance to me. But if I had to choose at the moment, it would be, "You made hope feel like a liar. Now I know it's you." It's my favorite at the moment because I feel joy and I feel happy hearing that, being on the other side of finally knowing this truth and
Mhm.
the freedom that has come with it. The song truly, in its essence, is a celebratory song. Um, yes, it was birthed out of coming out of trauma, and but I'm so glad that I could, for the gift that God has given me, to be able to turn it into something beautiful. And that's essentially the essence of the song too, is the way that I had to let go of something that was really nasty and hard, in the way that God can turn it into something so beautiful. And so it's a celebratory song. Um,
Mhm.
and after making it out of such a dark time. And this lyric specifically was a light bulb moment for myself when I wrote it, because I think it was the first time I could finally articulate what I had gone through and my experience with full confidence and clarity. And I believe it could also be relatable universally in many different ways for different people pertaining to their specific experiences in life, because it can be saying, "You made hope feel like the liar. Now I know it's you," whether that be a person, whether that be to fear, whether that be to lies you've been told over yourself, insecurity. It can be a who or what, it can be, or a where, a situation, or just trauma in general, or to the enemy. It can be so many things. But it's a reclaiming statement. And it's basically putting light to darkness and saying, "I see you, you don't scare me, you gotta go."
Exactly.
It also is just sassy and I love it. So that's currently my favorite lyric at the moment.
Absolutely. And I love that you said it can apply to so many different situations. Oftentimes people will hear a song and say, oh, I wonder who they were talking about. It's like,
Mhm.
perhaps it's not a person. Perhaps
Yeah.
it was a chapter in life. Or like you said, a concept like trauma, the enemy, fear, anxiety, depression, even.
Yep.
So that lyric could definitely be an anthem for anyone that anyone could relate to.
Yes, absolutely. And I have found it to be that way from just the bit of feedback that people have given to me and what it has meant, because I know what it means for me personally. But as an artist, that doesn't always technically matter, because once I put it out, it's to be interpreted for each person in a different way. for me, it means what it means to you.
Mhm.
That's what it's supposed to mean. But of course, I have where I birthed it from and where it came from. But I have loved the people that have told me, I just got out of this 10 plus year relationship, and this is
Mm.
exactly how I feel. Or this is how I feel about my relationship with my dad. Or this is how I feel about this and my divorce. And this is how I feel about this. And I'm like, I was not even thinking about that. That's not even where
Right.
my mind was going, but that's what's beautiful to me about music, and that I'm like, wow, I don't have that experience of being in a 10 plus year relationship or
Mhm.
all these other things. And I'm like, wow, it's crazy to think that I could write something that could even have the capacity to reach something like that. So it's beautiful to me, and I'm glad that it could be in many different things in many different ways for different people. So yeah.
Absolutely. That definitely speaks to, not only your pen game, but also the connection that you have with God, that He could give you a lyric that could
Absolutely.
relate to so many people, where they could see themselves after hearing that lyric. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Never take it for granted. I think I'm always in shock about it every single time.
Right.
Um, and it's a gift for sure. The power of words to melodies is a gift.
Absolutely. Since this song really does, in my opinion, it definitely discusses forgiveness, even if it doesn't say the word, I forgive you.
Right.
You in this song, like I can hear the freedom and I can hear that something was unlocked in order for you to be able to write from this space. What does forgiveness look like for you these days? That could be a sign that oh, I forgave that person, or even I know I've forgiven myself.
Yeah. Um, I think that a sign was almost kind of like the things that I was doing practically to love myself, was even allowing myself to do those things. Like I said, when your confidence is so beat down, I wasn't doing anything that I loved anymore.
Mm,
My family watched me turn into a shell of myself, and those things wouldn't bring me joy, and I couldn't even bring myself to allow myself to feel joy. And I think when I would think back to all the things that would happen or have happened that felt very unfair, I started to become less concerned about the people that caused me harm or the circumstances that caused me harm, and keeping tabs on if they understand what they've done, or letting people understand what has happened. I had to come to terms with that I might never get an apology.
mm,
And honestly, I don't think apology would ever heal my pain anyways. Forgiveness has been surrender. For me, forgiveness translates to surrender to me, because that's honestly what it is and what it requires, because forgiveness came out of that process of starting to pour back into me more than wasting my time hating the people that hurt me or hating the circumstances that hurt me that I couldn't control. And out of that forgiveness, I think out of forgiving just a person or a thing that has happened, forgiving yourself is probably so much harder.
mm,
It's so much harder. But I think I also noticed the physical symptoms that my body was experiencing starting to get better and heal slowly, because things manifest in your body in different ways when you experience trauma. And I started to finally feel those kind of dissipate. I would feel less nervous when I talked about things that happened to me, or the trauma I've gone through. I also feel less anger now when I think back
mm,
to those people or or situations that hurt me, and I feel more inclined to pray and like to a call to action of how to prevent these things in the future. It has definitely made me more compassionate, which I think is probably the best outcome that can come from going through something, that it could widen your heart of understanding in places where you probably didn't have as much understanding before until you go through it. And so That's what it's looking like for me right now. And I won't say I'm not the poster child for ooh forgiveness at all, because I'm still going through it. It's a process.
Mhm.
It's been a long process for me. Um, and it's something you have to do over and over again. It is not a one and done. And also nobody can tell you how long that process is going to be or how short it should be. I'm grateful that I've had people that have surrounded me to allow me to just feel all the things I needed to feel and be upset about the things I needed to be upset about, but also not allowing me to stay there. And
Right.
that's the danger. And this is why forgiveness is required. And it's not saying you have to go to that person or to that thing and tell them, I forgive you. It does not mean proximity. It does not mean reconciliation. It does not mean I like you. It does not mean any of that. It's truly for yourself to not harbor and to hold on to that pain in your body because it weighs you down. And I got to a point that I was just like, this is ruling my life,
Mhm.
living rent free in my body and in my mind, that I was like, something has to give because, and of course, I'm upset because you want forgiveness does not also omit accountability. I'm also going to say that too. It does not omit accountability. And I think a lot of times we hear forgiveness, and I was the same way. And I felt like a bad word to me because I'd be like, forgiveness? How dare you try to tell me to forgive this person or this situation? That was not fair. Forgiveness for what? I didn't do anything, you know? And so, but you have to get to a point, and that's on your own time, where it's just I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, I have to live my life,
Mhm.
and I had to trust that God was so angry about it, more than I could imagine, and cared so deeply about it that vengeance is his, that he will care for it. And in so many ways since then, I have seen that come to fruition in different ways. And maybe it didn't look like the immediate way I wanted it to look like,
Mhm.
but I know that God will avenge in his own way, in the way that is just. And so that's what forgiveness is looking like. It's definitely not cute. It's not fun. It's it's a
Not
process.
aesthetically pleasing.
No, not in no way. And I'm glad to be in this space now. But I can't tell you that next week something won't come up and I'll have to forgive all over again.
Right.
The process and start over from square one. So it's not just this amazing one moment that happens. In the same
Mhm.
way that sanctification is a process, so is forgiveness. And it is not a one and done. And so I will probably have to do it over and over again
Right.
as as I grow and as things shed. It is a process. So, but you're right, the song is definitely, it required that. It has that freedom sound and essence to it. And I'm glad that you said that you feel that from it, because that's exactly how I felt creating it and hoping that it felt that way.
Mhm.
Because that's how I felt. It felt like a reclaiming song, of all the things that felt stolen from me. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's what it's been looking like
Yeah.
lately.
And it's awesome that, you know, being able to give that feedback because I'm not going to name any names, but we know there are so many songs out there um, where even though they might talk about, forgiveness and moving on, there's still that undercurrent of, and I want you to see just how well I'm doing without you, as opposed to, I want you to know that I am a better person.
Mm,
So
yeah,
even if you never see anything tangible, I don't have a big house or I don't have a big car, or I don't have anything that you would envy, that you would just know, oh, that didn't break her.
yeah, absolutely. That's definitely where it came from. Because yeah, right, it's not like, oh, I got this new car and I got this house and I got this job. was nothing like that. I just knew, like, you have no power over me anymore. This situation doesn't have power over me anymore. And
Mm,
because of that, I'm better. I'm better off without it, without you. I'm letting it go, and you can't hurt me anymore. And I'm better because of it. And I'm also better because of the way that God has carried me through it. So
exactly.
it's both, and it's saying, like, yes, it's that sassy, like, I'm better without you, but it's also like, I'm better because God has made me so much better. And it is a testament to the way that He has carried me through every dirty, dark moment through my healing process, and still is doing. It is not done.
Mhm.
So I didn't write this completely being on the other side, but I am much more on the other side than I was before. And so yeah, absolutely. It is definitely, that is the intention.
Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So the final question that I had, what would you tell someone who is at a crossroad between seeking vengeance against or forgiving someone or a situation that has hurt them?
Before I answer, I just want to preface and say I'll be speaking from my experience and situation, because every journey towards forgiveness is wide and vast, and every situation is different, and no situation is the same, neither is each person. But in context of where this song was written from, I just want to address that, because I don't know who's listening or who's going to
Mhm.
listen. And I know I needed to hear this as a young girl. But if you're facing abuse of any form or in a toxic relationship, I don't want you to hear the word forgiveness and think it omits, like I said before, omits accountability. So I just want to state that before I go into that. With that said, being at this crossroad of forgiveness and vengeance was hard, because I had no idea where to start. I was angry and I was hurt and I was in shock. And nowhere in my mind was I thinking about forgiveness. Because when someone hurts you and does the unforgivable, where do you begin? I learned later on in my journey of forgiveness that I am very still freshly in that, like I said before, it doesn't mean I have to omit accountability. And I think that part really helped my forgiveness journey, because there's such a thing as righteous anger.
Mm,
And I just needed help where to direct it and to not let it consume me. And I'll quote Timothy Keller, and where he talks about anger, that anger in its pure form is love in motion
mm,
toward a threat to that which you love. And so we should be angry when someone commits unjust acts against another. We should be angry. I was angry for my younger self that experienced certain forms of abuse at the hands of someone I thought I could trust, and the church that abused their power by protecting that person and sweeping it under the rug. And and you should be angry about that. I was so angry at how small and helpless I felt. I was angry because I loved the church and I was grieved for the church, because unfortunately my situation is not uncommon. And I was angry because life was lifing and hitting me from all directions and not giving me or my family a break, and it was out of my control. And so what I would tell somebody, first I wouldn't say anything, and I would just listen and
mm,
meet them where they're at, because the last thing I wanted to hear when telling someone about how someone hurt me was, you should just forgive them. When someone is processing pain, they don't need to be lectured on how to process their pain or if it's wrong or right to feel the way they're feeling. Second, you should feel your feelings and don't ignore them, or it will consume you and it will fester and it will manifest in your body in so many different ways. For myself, it manifested as nausea, body shakes, anger, lashing out at people I loved. I had nightmares. I had heart issues. I had autonomic nervous system disorder. I
mm.
had migraines. I had unspecified autoimmune disease that I haven't been diagnosed with yet. And the list goes on. And so the more you ignore it, the more it grows. And it's hard, especially with a circumstance like abuse in any form or any way, or just something that was super traumatic, or loss. Like, it's hard to feel those things. It's really, really hard to feel those things because they're not easy feelings to go through. And so I would say you should feel them. Don't ignore them, because at one point you're going to have to deal with them. I'd also add to onto into listening to somebody before you just tell them to forgive is, I would hope that you would just believe them before asking questions. I hope that you would just believe them and their story without needing extra things to prove whether it's right or wrong, to just be there. And lastly, like I said before, it's a process. Forgiveness is a process, and nobody should tell you how long or fast it should take. Um, and it does not mean, like I said, to reconcile to the person. It doesn't mean proximity. It doesn't mean you have to like them. And again, it does not omit accountability. I am no way, like I said, poster child for forgiveness. Um, but I was spending so much time spiraling over if and when and how these people would get what they deserve. And for me, it was forgiveness was allowing God to guide my pain and trust that He will avenge me, because I was so exhausted and angry, and it was consuming me, and I was becoming like things that I hated.
Mhm.
And I had to also forgive myself. And that process has been probably, I would say, even harder than forgiving people or circumstances that have hurt me, because you blame yourself for
Right.
so many things. And those nice little things like shame try to whisper in your ear constantly to tell you that you did something wrong, or that
Mhm.
you are still this person. They would like to keep you small. And so I'm happy to feel freedom from that now, and I'm still working towards it. But that's what I would tell and somebody that's at that crossroads of vengeance and forgiveness, that it is your process. And yeah, you are entitled to that process
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
entitled to feel your pain, and nobody can take that away from you. But I also pray that it would not consume you, in the name of seeking vengeance. But like again, I said, forgiveness does not omit accountability. But like I said, I just learned where to direct it. Um, and so I'm still angry. I'm angry. But like I said, anger in its pure form is love in motion toward a threat to that which you love. So you
Mhm.
should be angry about those things. Um, so that's what I would say, and that's where You Should Know was birthed from.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for really deep diving into the song with me. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I really appreciate your time. And as we close, let the people know where they can find you, where they can find this awesome song, and connect with you.
Awesome. Yeah, my name is Julissa Leilani. You can find me on every platform with that name. I have julissaleilani.com, my website. And then you can find me on all social platforms, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the things under Julissa Leilani. And all my music is on all streaming platforms as well under Julissa Leilani, on Spotify, on YouTube Music, on Deezer, Pandora, Apple Music, iTunes, all the things, is where you can follow along my journey and listen to You Should Know, that is out now.
Oh, I was about to say something super churchy, like amen. Yes. Well, yeah, that is awesome. I am so proud of you. And once again, so honored that you would do this collaboration with me. We were talking last week, and I had mentioned, being a therapist and May being Mental Health Awareness Month. I wanted to give people an opportunity to see the other side of the coin. It's so
Right.
easy for, someone in my position to say, here is how stress affects your body, or here is how holding on to traumatic memories without ever processing them can affect you.
Right.
So hearing you say, this is how it affected me, and this is why you should not go too long without getting out of your head, sharing what's happening, and really embracing the reality that you can heal, you can forgive, and your life can be so much better on the other side of forgiveness than it ever would be should you pursue vengeance.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. It is. And I hope and wish everyone well on their healing journey. And I hope that if you listen to You Should Know too, that it would be an aid into your healing process and journey, and to know that healing is possible. Um, it's not easy, and I'm never going to say that it's easy or to have toxic positivity and say it's all well and it's all going to be great. No, it is hard. I will not lie to you. It is hard. And even with this song out, I'm still in the process. And I might be for quite some time as I grow, or as memories pop up. And but there is hope, and I hope that whatever situation or person that has made you feel like hope is the liar, that you would know that it's not. And that fear and that person is the one that is the liar, and it is not you. And that one day you'll be able to love yourself more than what has hurt you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time to join me on my channel today, because I know you could be anywhere on YouTube. So I appreciate your views. I hope that you've enjoyed this conversation. Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments, and definitely check out this song, you guys. It is incredible. So
Okay.
once again, thank you again, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.
Bye.